And now, a message from our sponsor, Flamingo. Every multifamily marketer wants to know what the next big thing will be. At the apartment department, we think that resident retention is the next big thing, which is why we're excited to have Flamingo as our podcast sponsor. Flamingo, founded by Jude Chai, is an all-in-one resident retention platform used by some of the top-performing communities in the country. And here's a fun little secret. If you see a community with 300 plus online reviews and 65% plus retention, there's a good chance they're using Flamingo. From automated renewal management and resident events to amenity bookings and even an AI concierge, Flamingo brings everything together in one sleek app that residents actually use. Learn more at getflamingo.com. And now, a message from our sponsor, Flamingo. Every multifamily marketer wants to know what the next big thing will be. At the apartment department, we think that resident retention is the next big thing, which is why we're excited to have Flamingo as our podcast sponsor. Flamingo, founded by Jude Chai, is an all-in-one resident retention platform used by some of the top-performing communities in the country. And here's a fun little secret. If you see a community with 300 plus online reviews and 65% plus retention, there's a good chance they're using Flamingo. From automated renewal management and resident events to amenity bookings and even an AI concierge, Flamingo brings everything together in one sleek app that residents actually use. Learn more at getflamingo.com. Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Apartment Department, the podcast for multifamily marketers by multifamily marketers. I am so excited by today's episode because it is a repeat in a good way, a sequel, if you will, to an episode we did last year. It is a blueprint recap, and so I am joined once again by Justin Jones, who is the Director of Industry Strategy at SmartRent, as well as the co-creator of the AI Exchange, and Shelly Steitz, the Senior Consultant of Partner Engagement for Cadence Marketing Solutions. And like I said, this is a very special episode because at Blueprint last year is when Shelly, Justin, and I first became friends. And now a whole year later, here we are celebrating our friendship, celebrating Blueprint, the future of the built world. And so, of course, we saw it fitting that we would, once again, we all attended Blueprint. And so we thought it would be really fun to come back and tell everyone about our experience at Blueprint, which Blueprint is an interesting conference because it is meant for real estate in general, but they're really making a concerted effort to bring more multifamily owners, operators, vendors, suppliers to the table. And I think we definitely saw that this year, so that will be part of our conversation. But Shelly, Justin, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, Shane. Happy you talking the anniversary. What is it? You're saying this is a sequel? It's like Bride of Blueprint, Revenge your Blueprint,
Blueprint 2,
Electric
Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo, Blueprint, even bluer.
There will be an AI song accompanying the release of this podcast episode. Like, that's just a given. So I think the first thing we want to talk about is because Blueprint is not a newer conference in life, but a newer conference within the realm of multifamily. I think first what we wanted to talk about is the format of Blueprint. And so Justin and Shelly, I'm hoping you guys can just give us your take on what is Blueprint? Like, what can people expect when they go there?
I think you can expect a convergence that you have to be ready to navigate, or else it could be either overwhelming or equally underwhelming. I think at shows that sometimes we're more used to, which are more multifamily centric, i.e. an AIM or an NAA, equally as overwhelming and exciting, you can kind of find your way because you're going to stumble upon someone who technically has your same lived experience, technically is in your same industry. But with Blueprint, there opens this opportunity for you, my multifamily friends listening, to really invest yourself in being a real estate professional, which I've noticed in the past 10 years, myself included, I forget that I am a real estate professional. So here you are at Blueprint with brand new companies solving a myriad of problems in the real estate spectrum, with a select number of people within your industry to meet, but then a smorgasbord of people outside your industry to meet. How do you take advantage of this learning moment, both on the operator and the vendor side? And that's where you have to choose, if you're coming, let's say, as a sponsor or coming as an individual, how you invest your time and your finances into this hustle and into this learning environment. And that, my friend, is very much a choose your own adventure with, and I have to admit this, from my little humble opinion, the app of all apps and one of the coolest networking clicker buttons that we get in the industry to do your bidding and to help you network and connect.
Yeah, Justin makes a really good point. You really do have to be intentional with your time at Blueprint because it's not as scheduled as a lot of conferences. You're not like, they're not shoving the agenda down your throat. And so some of them, not that it ever gets shoved down your throat, but you do have to be very intentional about where you are going, what sessions you're going to, and who you're going to see. There's also a lot more downtime than you have in a lot of other conferences. And again, you're not agended out here. But it does make it so you have to really plan your time. Like when you're not in a session, what are you doing? Because different from other conferences, there's not as much of a trade show floor as you have. So you again have to plan out your time and where you're going because not everyone is going to be at a booth. You really have to find if there's suppliers that you want to meet with or anyone specific that you want to network with, you have to find them out in the wilds of the conference and make that plan beforehand.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think just to give like a visual picture for folks, so it was in the Venetian. This was the second year in the Venetian, and it is in the conference center in the Venetian, and it's basically in one floor. So you walk down, you've got the registration area. There's probably, I don't know what, 4 or 5 rooms at most dedicated to the entire conference. There's a huge room that has the trade show floor where the meals are, where some of the networking events are. Then there is a main stage across the way that is only used for the main stage, like main sessions. And then there are also maybe like 3 side conference rooms that are attached to the trade show booth. So it's interesting. It's like compiled into this one little space, which is really amazing, especially if we're used to kind of, walking from building to building or something from a conference standpoint. But you're right. It's there's a lot going on, but you have to be cognizant of your time too. So, but I like that about the format is like you can walk out in the hallway and be like, oh, hey, there's someone that I didn't even know was going to be here, or hey, I meant to run into you and now you're right here in front of me, which can be wonderful and distracting at the same time. I think I saw one time, Brian Miller from Zillow, if you're listening. I think I saw him like 5 to 7 times in one day. Like we almost got worried when we stopped seeing each other. So let's go ahead and talk about what we took away from Blueprint. And there were a couple different things going on. So there were sessions, obviously, both main stage and then kind of track sessions. There were roundtables, and then there were what I like to call the informal meetings of when you run into people in the hallway. So I'm hoping that you guys can tell me your favorite session takeaway first, or favorites, 2 to 3 favorites. What did you really learn that you're like, okay, I'm going to take this into my next year and do something with this information?
Of course. Well, one thing I want to also mention is that Blueprint has so many tables. Like there are so many places to sit in the conference, which is amazing. And I should have mentioned that earlier, but that is one thing that I really appreciate about Blueprint is how many tables there are in the conference itself, because you can sit and that's where you can have some of those side conversations as well. But going back to your question, Anne, about takeaways, I really think we saw a lot more applied AI knowledge this year. Last year, it was really a lot of speculative, like how are we going to use AI? This time, we actually got to hear from people who are actively using it at their companies and how they're incorporating it into their workflows and into their teams. And some of the takeaways from that, I felt like there was a big emphasis on making sure that, one, you are vetting the technology thoroughly. I believe one person said that they interview their AI like it's an employee. So really making that inspection of what you expect from the technology before you even implement it. Secondly, and again, on this idea of AI as your employee, like making sure that you're doing regular check-ins, that you're not just falling prey to the lunch it and leave it syndrome, but that you are continually inspecting the AI because it is continually learning while it's on the job with your teams. So those were two big things that I kind of took away. But the third thing really, and I don't know that this is really what somebody said in a session, but as you're sitting here and listening to how everyone is using AI and all the work that goes into it is making sure that you have good processes before you even implement AI. Because if you, much like, we talk about bad data in, bad data out, you're going to get a bad process in, bad process out with AI. So really just being very mindful of how you're implementing it and what you're actually asking it to do and where that fits in with the other roles on your team.
I think that's a good point. And what systems is it relying on, and is the data in those systems accurate and compatible? Because like we've talked about before, I think there are varying opinions on this, but I think having AI do the work of making the systems compatible for you then just adds another layer of complication and watching and training. Justin, what about you?
I would try to go to most of the multifamily sessions, including the one you were on with Dustin, which I always love. Really, the focused kind of not NMHC top 50, but focused. Here it is, brass tacks, very dedicated conversation, especially around centralization. And I feel that y'all, with your company size, you're able to ebb and flow and experiment in a way some of the bigger companies aren't, which allows us here at a place like Blueprint to get to know you a bit more. Where I think of the other shows, we're a big focus on the huge institutional folks. One thing I loved about something, it was in the From Skeptic to Champion session. OJ Lure said, authenticity is a two-way street. And I love this because you talked about how people are focused on data. What I noticed as a vendor, and when I noticed people were talking about in relationship to the relationship with vendors, is that you have to be co-building and co-collaborating now. I cannot show up and just give you a cookie visit and expect you to buy my software anymore. I have to show up in an authentic way, provide results or opportunities and expectations, and together we can co-build to those results. And so what OJ was saying with authenticity being a two-way street, if I as a seller can come with more authenticity and you as the buyer can come with more authenticity, and we can share the same kind of brain space and mindset of trust, we will achieve together. And I love the fact that like Carol Enoch was even focused on that. She 1X that. She's like, well, okay, yes, Anne, whatever you bring to the table, make sure it helps the site teams do better at their jobs. So what I noticed in the Skeptic to Champion session was that it was about actually shopping and expectations more than just, hey, AI is a thing we should be buying. Now it's about how do we co-build? How do we shop smarter? How do we bring authentic opportunities that reflect a partnership really truly of shared success as opposed to just buyer and seller? And quite frankly, I don't think you can have these conversations about innovation, about AI, about data without having them co-collaborated with a vendor. So vendors, be authentic. Suppliers, find those vendors you trust. Y'all know I'm going to shout out the Robert Lees of the world from Hiley. Like, those are the type of people who will sit there and talk to you and build something with you. And then maybe eventually you'll buy something. I don't know.
That is true. Robert took my spreadsheet and made it better.
And to that note,
I'll always be grateful.
You met Robert last year at Blueprint with me. And did we throw you through a sales cycle? No. And again, we're going back to the key of Blueprint. Be authentic, come up with results, and you'll have a better experience at Blueprint. And in turn, you might even have a better experience in your sales cycle, which comes into like that Skeptic to Champion thing we spoke about.
Well, one thing that's really interesting about Blueprint too is it does feel really intimate in a way that other conferences don't. And again, I think it goes back to like, there's not as many booths, there's not as many, the trade show floor isn't as big. And so you do get like an immediacy with some really big players within the industry, both on the supplier side and on the operator side as well. So it's like those people are right there, or you go to a happy hour and you're like one of just a few people. So it does feel like you can have some more of those really authentic conversations and that more of that relationship building than you might get when there's so many people to divide your attention amongst. So I do feel like there's just an intimacy there that you don't really get at other conferences.
I agree. Now, what you do with that intimacy, it really is going to be the difference between A-list marketers and pre-marketers, A-list business development people, and people who think they can do the spray and pray technique that you may or may not bring to other larger venues that will not reflect well on your business at a smaller venue. Or my operators, be open, but know that these sweet vendors who are investing their time and money into being in front of you, the window of opportunity shrinks when you're at Blueprint. So the expectations might be different. So if we set meetings with intentionality, or you can communicate with intentionality on that amazing app they have, I think you'll have a better relationship building, co-building moment for Blueprint, which, let's be honest, we're co-building together right now for Blueprint to become the next big blank. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, Blueprint is amazing. Actually, and Justin, I have a question for you about that. So let's say I'm going to Blueprint and I'm interested in just learning and I want to meet with vendors and I want to meet with suppliers, but I'm not necessarily the decision maker within my organization, but I still want to give me some tips. How would I go into a meeting like that? Would I just say, "Hey, I'm really interested in learning. Your product looks neat." Like when we're talking about authenticity and kind of building things together. Is it okay for me just to come in and say, "Hey, I just want to learn because your product looks cool." Is that okay?
I think is it okay with me? Oh my gosh, absolutely. I think that, first of all, if you are a vendor out there and only selling to your decision makers and you have no idea what happens through the amazing, great channels of relationship building, hot goss, and champions, then you are not selling correctly, because I've gotten more relationships built through hot goss and knowing what's actually deep happening on the authentic, like ground level of businesses, as opposed to just going for that VP, because that VP, they have other decisions to make and they need the Anne Baums in order to help educate. So is that okay for you to do? Absolutely. But I would go in, Anne, with an intentionality of a problem you would like to solve. And that could be a problem, deep for yourself, at town you're trying to solve, or even just a general industry problem, and put that problem straight forward. So you're still problem solving together and co-building together. Because if you go say, "Tell me about your product," and then they list all this feature dump on you because they can't qualify you in real time because you're technically not a decision maker, neither of you have left that relationship all the smarter. When you and I met, we were truly talking about what AI could do for X, Y, and Z. And then we deep dove even to, it is a sales technique between ServiceNow, Service Later, no service at all. But that's because we came into this meeting with a few set pieces of intention. But were we talking in that instance about journey automation necessarily that you could have purchased? No. We really were just seed gathering in order to innovate and co-build together, which I think that's where Blueprint is. Blueprint, you're going to meet a lot of early stage startups, and then you're going to meet a lot of people who are looking to buy those early stage startups, and then some people in between. Know who your audience is, have intentionality from both sides, and I think you'll have a better conversation. And then, of course, end it at 30 minutes and then go do the next thing.
I love it. And I think that's interesting because we're almost talking like it's this free, but then I think they do such a good job of then bringing people back together. The happy hour, like I like how there's like very set conference events, right? Like I think after both days, and then there's a closing party. So there's 2 happy hours at the end of both conference days, and then there's like an end of conference party. And so I do like that sometimes at other conferences, the events are kind of spread out and you're like, where do I go? What do I do? But I love that there's an opportunity for everyone to come back together. So, okay, we got the favorite session takeaways. What about each of you? Well, all 3 of us sat at roundtables because they also have this really great feature where there are roundtables of 10 people. They're kind of invite only, of varying hot topics within multifamily. And so Justin, you hosted a roundtable, and then Shelly, you and I each sat at one. So Shelly, go first. Tell us a little bit about the roundtable that you sat at, and what were some of the takeaways?
Of course. So I sat at a table with Janet Rosseth on marketing department structure. So really talking about, there's a lot of marketers that were at the table and talking about how it looks different from company to company. So there's a lot of, two companies pretty much have the same. And it was really wild to hear about how some of these companies structured their marketing departments. There was one that had probably 72,000 unit company, and they had a 47-person marketing department. And on the other side of the table was a company that has 48,000 units, and they have a 3-person marketing department. But most of the companies at the table were teams of 1 or 2 at the most, for, ranging from like 5,000 to 10,000 units. So it can really vary. And then the roles that are in each, or that like kind of live under marketing. So that 47-person department had pricing underneath it. So like setting the rental rates, which I don't think is a typical task that lives under marketing. And others had like training and other things. So really it can, not only can the size vary, but the roles that live within marketing can vary as well. So it's a really interesting discussion. And you also start to hear, even no matter what the size of your marketing department, there's a lot of similar challenges that people face across the board. So that was just a really interesting discussion, and there's no standard within our industry of what this looks like. So yeah, it certainly kind of felt like the beginning of a conversation that, hopefully will be continued. But yeah, it was a really, really nice to kind of hear what other people are facing and seeing out there.
Want more from the apartment department? Find us on Substack for episodes and articles delivered straight to your inbox. I think that's interesting. And I mean, I know that that's a conversation, even I know when I go to my supervisor about structure plans and hiring plans, I mean, that's something he brings up often is, well, you're asking for this role, or you're looking at this. Well, what does it look like in other companies? And so, it's just kind of, everyone wants to know, but it's so different that then it ultimately becomes maybe about what's best for your company. I don't know.
Yeah. What your roles are.
Yeah. Were there any roles that maybe people were talking about? Like, were there any similarities in terms of like, in the near future, we definitely want to bring on name similar role here?
Well, one role that everyone wants to have is someone to deal with back-end systems, like system implementation, and because a lot of that falls on the marketers right now. So really making sure that your tech stack is running smoothly and everything's connected, and there's that consistency. I mean, I think you mentioned earlier that like data consistency for your AI, and that falls on marketing a lot of times. So really having someone else to kind of take that off of the marketer's plate, because it's really hard to be responsible for all of the systems and also be trying to make these really intelligent, strategic moves for your company and for marketing, and to drive that ROI like we want to do when you end up in the weeds, just making sure that your property name is the same across 5 different systems.
Right.
To use
My
an example I've heard you use.
You're right. No, and those are the most time consuming. Like every time we get a question like, why isn't this amenity showing up on this marketing source? I'm like, oh, there's an hour down the drain. Or something, because there's a system break, or there's not a setting checked or something like that. And so I'm with you. I love that. I want that person too. Justin, you and Christy co-hosted a roundtable. What was it about, and what was your takeaway from it, or takeaways?
We did, and I may even steer us in a different direction a second if I'm allowed to. Yeah. I dropped in on a roundtable when I wasn't supposed to, and it was one of the coolest conversations. Now that I'm moving a bit farther from like the marketing side, where I've spent a lot of time in the operational side, I'm hell-bent on learning everything I can about operations, especially for our maintenance staff. It was a discovery I made about a year ago, realizing that our maintenance staff, they are our service heroes. and they will be the most emboldened by great technology. So I'm on this journey to discover what the reality is. So I sat in on Maintenance Real Talk, what's working in maintenance tech, and it was great. These were new conversations I hadn't heard. And one of the biggest takeaways was that maintenance technology is actually hard to sell to the owners and the decision makers, that the people on site get it, but owners and decision makers are having a harder time swallowing. One of the reasons is that you might not see cost savings for an extended period of time. So for instance, for like journey technology we have in marketing, you'll see the velocity change, you'll see the higher quality of leads, you'll be able to convert. With maintenance technology, preventative, predictive, it could do one of two things. First of all, with the right maintenance technology in place, it can show you stuff that's broken that needs to be fixed right now. So you can't like, ooh, good, that's not broken. I don't know, la, 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 can't hear you. That doesn't happen anymore with maintenance technology. That might actually create some upfront cost creep that you weren't expecting the technology unearths. But I think our industry needs to start thinking more about long-term strategy, long-term solutions, as opposed to these short-term, ease of use, point solution gains.
Yeah.
That are easier to spend money on because they fit into this budget and this budget. But if you're a really proactive budgeter and you're in a budget season, you see this a chunky piece of maintenance technology that takes a little while to implement, that might take a bit for you to actually see the ROI. This is what Maintenance Real Talk was about. And I think too, and this came up, this is a quote, nobody is loading the full picture of what maintenance teams are doing on a daily basis. And I thought, marketers, you can kind of see our levers, right? If you've got the right CRM in place, you've got the right dashboards in place for Google Analytics, you can kind of see our work. You can kind of see the efforts to results. But for the maintenance team, there is not a single source of truth, and they're even hard to punch together because some of the work that's being done, even recurring work orders, is being done manually. And then, of course, here I am falling over my seat because I've been talking about automation for the past 10 years, and here maintenance is not having had the conversation. So the big call out was empower maintenance techs and how they see themselves. Give them that power. Teach them that they are the bastions of service.
Do you think
like
they're...
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I feel like I cut off your great.
No, I just passionate. This is so bad. This stuff is amazing. It's brand new to me.
I know you're very passionate about it. I love it. Do you feel like that some of that that hard sell on owners and the decision makers is less about the ROI, but also the lack of faith in their maintenance teams to adopt technology?
Yeah, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. If they've not complained about it, I've not heard a noise. Now, all my diva marketers listening, we can be loud as hell when something's broke and we don't like something. And we also get sold to very passionately about these new amazing things. Our maintenance staff, these are our service technicians. They are literal fixers. So is there a chance that their combined voices could rise up and get us to change things? Yes. Are we asking them is the question. Are we actually bringing them to the table? One group has a monthly maintenance meeting, which I thought was so smart. They bring everyone together and allow them to champion things. Cost creep also happens too, I think, when you unearth one problem, another problem unearths, and other problem unearths. And I think cost creep does scare these owners. But also if no one says anything, then they don't know there's a problem. And if great technology is not catering to and serving people who have never touched technology before, people who have different learning opportunities and learning modals, and people who might not have English as a first language, you're missing the mark on making sure that your technology is accessible to everyone. And that's when you get to talk to Monica Frazier and I about DEI and technology, which we love to do.
I think that's interesting. And that's, I think, what's amazing about Blueprint right there. You had the opportunity to sit in on a conversation that is something you're passionate about and just learn. And, it was a small, intimate group. And I mean, I think that's, a shout out to Blueprint right there, is like that format and that information was available to you. And I think the maintenance thing, that could be a whole other conversation, because I have theories about how line items are seen as well, and like how some are just kind of seen as like, well, it is what it is, versus like, oh, well, we can somehow move this. I'm talking about like an accounting GL, like, whereas like Ren, lost. I'm not even gonna remember the right word because I'm all jumbled, but you know what I mean? Like marketing spend and some others are kind of almost like they're on contracts maybe, so they're not fixed costs. So people feel like they can adjust them. Or like rent, it's like we'll just increase rent and then we'll get more income. But I think some of those middle GLs get kind of like, well, it just is what it is. And so then we don't always think about, well, how could we make them better? And how could we make the lives of the people behind the GLs better?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's kind of a whole, I don't know, translating the spreadsheet into I don't know, but you kind of
You
get
know
what I'm
what?
saying.
Shelly, also like answer your question too. I think only above leasing, like leasing agents, new leasing agents, when it comes to churn, above that is your maintenance technicians. And so, are they going to adopt it? Well, that's the question. Are you providing it in a way that speaks to their problems? Are you listening to their feedback? Is it intuitive to the degree that you have, like we talked about earlier? Did you come to the table with the expectations you need to push the business forward? Is there a share wide what and how? And are you educating on it? Which, hey, transition, going back to what Christy Fickard and I talked about, we realized the roadblocks to AI adoption, we did something on the adoption curve, are people, processes, and profits. And that those are the things that kind of get in the way. And one great gentleman in our group brought up the concept of AI portion control, which I thought was hysterical. He said, bring in bite-sized pieces of AI that you control and understand and implement. Don't go full smorgasbord, or else you won't get any accuracy in your reporting. You just added AI for the sake of AI, and no one really knows how to attribute it to pushing the business forward. You just AI'd for the sake of AIing.
Yep. But we have an AI strategy now. What's the problem? I couldn't resist. All right. So one of the things about Blueprint are these kind of side conversations. I was talking to you guys about like having the most amazing idea at lunch with someone. We were going to change the world. What was your guys' favorite informal conversation? Just happenstance had a conversation at Blueprint.
I got to see an amazing moment of the company I now work at, Smart Rent, of one of our top executives, who's this big think guy. His name's Braden, really inspirational. Have an extremely amazing, smart, quick, and to the point direct conversation with one of our amazing clients from BH, Amy. And I watched them in an environment that allowed for this conversation to happen, to solve and create and ideate on problems and solutions as we watch this partnership progress. And I don't think they mind me saying that. And what I thought was so impressive is that there wasn't a lot of cacophony. Amy wasn't being pulled in different directions. It was really just so to the point. And so, like you used the word intimate, it just, that conversation might not ever happen in another environment where both parties were being pulled in a different direction. And I got to watch that happen. And I just was really inspired by how amazing the conversation was because of its directness, because all the walls were down and it was two people with a shared passion for success and a deep understanding of each other's business and how we're partners and how we can turn the next corner on the next big piece of innovation. That, my friend, is Blueprint in so many words.
That's incredible. I love it. I wish I had been there for that moment, actually. I'm like sad.
Helped me at them too. I kind of kept my mouth shut because I'm like, I have nothing to add here except funny jokes. Like, they were just really smart.
Well, Shelly, what about you?
And you'll be happy because I actually have two, and one of them you were a part of. So, but certainly one of my favorite conversations was the one that you and I had with Chrissy Fickert and Eric Sharp, just really about kind of, we were all taking in all of this conversation about centralization in AI and really just processing like, okay, so AI is going to be able to do a lot of things, but we still have a lot of work to do. Like there is going to be so much work to actually make sure that these things run properly and are connected to the right things and are not breaking down on us. And there's all of the other work that AI cannot do that we still have to do as well. And just really like a little frustration of, how like we really need to figure out like how to do all of those things, and kind of we still have the work of marketers to do in addition to figuring out how to implement AI, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really great conversation. And then I also had a really great conversation with Brent Williams from Multifamily Insiders, and I, really have not had a chance to sit down. And this is like less of a work thing, but I actually like we talked about our kids and stuff, and it was just a really, it was less of a work conversation than it was just like actually really getting to know him in a way that I hadn't before. So we certainly talked about industry stuff and everything, but it was nice to actually like learn more about him, which I thought was very lovely and nice. So that was not quite as quite as mic droppy of a moment, but more of a connection type of a moment. So
Okay, well, Shelly got 2. I want to get 2. Shelly got 2.
you can have another.
I want another.
I mean, I'm not in charge, but yes.
Who is in charge here? I need to speak with the manager.
No one's in charge.
Obvious. Welcome to Multifamily.
Your haircut now matches your
Yeah,
your
I got a really,
attitude.
for those of you
What's your
listening
ask for the
in
manager?
Radio Land, I have a really hip haircut right now. I'm just still getting used to. But okay. So amazing conversation I had was with Anne Hollander from Wind Companies. So I got to see her on stage throwing down knowledge with a capital K about governance. And another thing I'm really jazzed about right now. And so I know I wanted to have this dialogue. We had part 1 during the AI exchange this summer, very well attended. And we got to talk to Anne, and I got to talk with Anne and Christy about governance. And so she laid down a quick high level, and I just never would have learned these things. So we're going to actually bring her to the exchange. And that's the kind of thing, again, you got to hear her talk about it on stage, and then we got a few tidbits of how to, put it into practice. And really, I learned that she is a practitioner herself and developing this craft of governance on AI. And I never learned that before. She's also amazing on stage. And I just think, again, opportunity, there it is. Ask the questions. It's like there's no celebrity bubble at Blueprint. So the celebrity bubble in LA is you don't walk up to a celebrity and you not tap them on the shoulder and ask for a picture or a selfie. It's gauche. But in New York, you can. You can talk to anybody. So I think Blueprint is more than New York, right? You can walk up to anybody who's there, just be intentional, ask them a purposeful question. If it's a selfie, make sure the angles are correct. But there is that more the equilibrium of stuff that we're all there as thought leaders asking big questions and not really trying to go in for the hard sell.
I love that. It was started in New York, so maybe the vibe just like...
Oh, well, you're right. Yeah. And, Martin's like that. Again, it really is. It's all about the vibes, and culture starts at the core of the company. So if Blueprint is a New York company that transcends the fact that, it's a kind of all access thing. We're all very much equal there with intention.
Okay, so this time went so fast, as always. I wish we had 5 hours together. Like, can we just all fly together and hang out or something? But we can't right now. We will one day. But in the meantime, let's go to, if you had to give one piece of advice for a first timer at Blueprint, what advice would that be? How would you want them to go into it to make the most out of their Blueprint experience?
Yes, I think Justin gave a very good example of this earlier, but don't limit yourself to just the topics that you think are quote unquote for you.
Yeah.
Definitely seek out some of the other sessions on some of the other tracks, because you can really find some lessons that will resonate with you. And one of my favorite parts of Blueprint is on Thursday morning of the session, they have a main stage session that's all just developers walking through how they've gotten different projects done. And that's honestly one of my favorite sessions, is just hearing how all of these projects came together. Because we often, as marketers, or even suppliers, we're not there at the outset of these projects and the decision making that goes into them. We kind of just have to carry them through and make sure that the buildings get full. But here we actually can learn what those challenges were and everything that they had to go through and the decisions that they had to make in order to make it a livable building, or in some cases, they're mixed use or whatever it is that's being created, and just the thought that goes into that. And those challenges is just a very different thing than we typically get to hear about. So
I agree with you. I love those main stage sessions. Yeah, I'm obsessed with them. My favorite thing actually that I learned this year was about the idea of a turnaround CEO that comes into an organization that needs turned around. National Association of Realtors brought in a turnaround CEO, and I was like, yes, she's my favorite person that's ever existed. Like, I didn't know that that was an actual, and I learned something. I learned that CEOs have different purposes and different skill sets. And I didn't, maybe I knew that, but I hadn't thought about it before. And like, I was like, I'm going to carry that with me always.
Mm-hmm.
Justin, what would you tell a first timer blueprinter making things up now to make the most out of their blueprint experience?
Make intentional meetings, know your value and how to be valued based upon expectations and results, not just about what you do. Paint that picture on both sides. So if you're a vendor, clearly it is the why that will connect us all. And I think we're all there for the same why. That wins. So you got past the why, especially at a blueprint. So what you do, how you do is valuable, but resulting in what? And if you can't tell that story, you won't be able to match the Anne Baums out here looking for these very specific results when she walks up. And even if it doesn't match, be kind and move along, but don't waste anybody's time. And if you set meetings without proper intentions and without specifics, and you're just wasting someone's time, you will always be remembered as a time waster, because this is an intimate setting, not like an NAA where your time might get wasted. You're running around. There's tons of smorgasbord of things happening. But at Blueprint, you got 15 minutes from Anne Baum. You better do with that. You got it with Ian. You got it with Jamie Gorski. You got it with Anne. Like I said, the celebrity bubble is gone. You better be intentional with that time, learn their expectations, and match it with what you can drive as results. Or else you will be forgotten.
I think that's good. My advice would be you'll be forgotten. There, that's part of the AI song.
Or immersed.
This
Is remembered as a time waster.
Suddenly, this podcast has become a musical.
Suddenly, have you not been on a podcast with me before, Shelly? Oh, first time? Oh, no.
Well, it's my second time. Remember, it's our anniversary.
Oh, yes. I guess I didn't sing last time. I was nervous.
The Apartment Department, the musical. I would mirror all of your guys's, because I'll say that so Blueprint, obviously all of us have gone twice. The first time last year, I went I'm going to go to every session and I'm going to take all the notes and learn all the things. And that was amazing. And I learned so much about other facets of real estate, not just multifamily, met VCs that I'd never met before. I mean, I met people, met Justin, met Hayo, it was really great. And then this Blueprint, I had more meetings, going into it, and more kind of a set agenda. And so that was a totally different conference experience for me. I typically go to sessions, see people I know, but I don't necessarily always set meetings. And so I would say my advice for a first timer would be maybe a mix of both of those strategies. And I think exactly what both of you just said. Go in, use the app, see who's going to be there. If you see a name that excites you, reach out to them and ask for time and say, this is why I want to meet with you, because you're right, it is an absolute opportunity. The setting is ripe for meetings and innovation and getting to know each other. So that would be my advice, is plan ahead of time. Look at the agenda ahead of, which is like not new conference advice, right? But that would be my advice, because there are so many opportunities at Blueprint. And I think actually each experience could be different now that I think about it. But your first time, get a good mix of meetings and sessions, I think.
Yeah.
Any parting words before we sign off for the evening?
We love Martin and Blueprint.
Yes.
If it's not the show you want, make it the show you want it to be, both for your vendors and your operators. Vendors, if you have an idea, get it in front of these folks right now. Create the show you want it to be. That's Blueprint right now. But don't complain because you didn't get an ROI or something didn't work. You knew the drill. Don't overwhelm people. Be intentional. And then operators, you know the drill. You are extremely valuable to us as vendors, but get us into conversations that you value. Help us get into those conversations so we don't waste your time.
Yes. Like Justin said, Blueprint is really what you make of it. It's your own, choose your own adventure. And you can go on any track you want. You can spend time in meetings, but really it's just about knowing what you want to get out of it before you get into it. So, and you can certainly deviate from that plan too, but really just have a really good plan when you go in so that you can get the most out of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm already looking forward to next year and spending time with both of you. And then, of course, the famous recap after. This is
For a
definitely
third anniversary.
third
Yes.
anniversary. Maybe we'll buy each other presents.
Yeah, what is third? I think is it wood? I don't know.
Oh, okay. Salad
We'll do some
spoons or
research.
something.
Join us next year for Blueprint. Faster, more furious. Return of the Blueprint. The Blueprint strikes back. The Blueprint awakens.
The Blueprint trilogy.
Yeah, it's Rise of Blueprint.
Blueprint awakens.
And
We'll do prequels.
Yeah, the prequel before Blueprint. There were Shelly, Justin, and Anne living separate lives, and then
The dark ages, really.
dark ages before we all knew each other.
Okay, can we also just mention how there were no puppies this year? And I think they need to bring back puppies.
Yeah, that was a pretty, yeah. Justin, do you remember that from last year? There was a whole booth with puppies. I don't remember what they were selling, but
They're making it up. There were no puppies last year. They just walked into a PetSmart and started petting puppies. You're listening to the Apartment Department. Thank you so much for joining us.
where we make things up. No, Shelly.
No, they're
doesn't make
wild.
out.
They're wild.
Yes.
It's there. No, I think someone sponsors that. Usually there's a puppy sponsorship. Yeah.
Oh, got it. Oh, maybe
They
the
weren't
three of us-
puppies. They were actually people from the Rio who got lost, but were very petable.
Did you guys? Oh my God, we didn't even talk about the robot dog that didn't have a head.
And
You
there's
get to
like
make
a
those
little
sense
robot
people.
kid.
Yeah.
Did you see that? And I wanted to pick him up because he's like the same size as my son.
Technically, so I don't usually like anamorphic things in shows. I think it's detracting from the actual AI that's in our houses. Like for instance, a water sensor or a temperature a temperature gauge. That's AI. That's a machine that's working, that's learning and setting your temperatures. I've been employing automation. Sure, that's still a machine in your house. When you show the animatronics or the anamorphic things, it can be a bit like, in the future, there'll be robots for everyone. And then it turns into Megan or that Haley Joel Osment film AI. I will say, though, the dog. So Christy and I engaged with the dog, and it was really interesting. They use it for like inspections, looking at parking spots, looking like places that's hard for a human to see. Yeah, you can actually send in that little creature to go do reconnaissance and capture data. It was one of the more interesting things I'd seen. And then it was also like looking. So, when you look at those things, understand you are looking at a piece of theater. Sometimes they can be puppets, but then in this case, that was a real product that people could use on site today for certain operational functions. Really cool stuff.
That is really cool.
That is very cool. I feel like we really need to rewind and to just re-record this and include all
Why
of that.
Shelly was sitting there offering it a treat and going, "Did you just see a puppy?" I'll never know, but we didn't want to stop that dream for her.
No, we didn't. All right. Shelly, Justin, thank you so much. I couldn't have done this without both of you. I couldn't have been at Blueprint without you. Couldn't have done the recap without you. Thank you so much to Carlos. Thank you so much to Chris, who was not here tonight, but we missed him. But he also wasn't at Blueprint, so Chris will be back next episode. Thank goodness, because I miss him asking questions. Thank you to Flamingo, our sponsor, and until next time, this has been the Apartment Department. Thank you.